You know that R. Kelly song, Trapped in the Closet? I'm kind of thinking of that lyric right here. Well, what the is this? Because we had ourselves some rumors coming out of the fourth period. David Pagnotta's website, he is an NHL insider affiliated with SiriusXM on NHL Radio, and he posted a recent article on his website, thefourthperiod.com, talking about Seth Jones and how the Jones camp is helping to facilitate a trade. In this little piece, he goes over a multitude of NHL players and different situations with these players, and in fact, there are so many video topics that we can pull out from any of these sentences over here, but we're going to focus on a few sentences that really highlight one specific team. Yeah, we're talking about the Vancouver Canucks today, and we're talking about some guys that apparently they may be linked to. Now, before we get underway, I will say there is one guy in the title of this video whose name I messed up last time we talked about this guy. I accidentally said his uncle in the title instead of him. So to those in the previous video who caught it, hey, thank you very much for being patient. I know you weren't because you disliked the video anyways, but hey, either or, today we're talking about Seth Jones of the Columbus Blue Jackets and Tyler Bertuzzi of the Detroit Red Wings. Take a look at this. The article writes about Seth Jones and the entire situation with him. It's a long-winded few paragraphs, and I think everybody just kind of knows what's going on over here with Jones. As Blue Jackets GM Kekalainen navigates the trade waters, Pagnotta is led to believing that, hey, Kekalainen has some assistance. According to a well-placed source close to the organization and the situation, Jones's camp has been granted permission to speak with other teams to help expedite a trade. Well, why is that the case? Well, you'd only be asking that if you're living under a rock. This guy was supposed to be one of the better pieces of the Blue Jackets going into the long-term future. However, he has informed the team that he does not want to re-sign with the club, meaning that they're now going out there trying to trade him away. The Chicago Blackhawks, Philadelphia Flyers, Colorado Avalanche, Winnipeg Jets, Kings, and Vancouver Canucks are among the teams that have been poking around on Jones, and I suspect we'll start to hear some of them likely becoming frontrunners in the next coming week. And to that I say, wow, okay. The Kings, I can understand that. The Blackhawks, they've been in the rumor mill for a while, as have the Flyers been too. The Avalanche and the Jets, hey, not really my first choice in thinking about a potential Seth Jones fit, but hey, if they're in there, they're in there. And then the Vancouver Canucks are in here, and it's like, okay, we're gonna do this again, eh? This is one of the things that doesn't really make all too much sense in my mind when I try to take a look at where the Vancouver Canucks are right now and what it would take to do this kind of move. Now, yes, Seth Jones, whether you like him or not, I think he would be an upgrade over whoever the heck it is the Canucks decide to have on their right side next season. They're going to keep Myers, and that's pretty much all we have guaranteed with us right now. Because Schmidt, we don't know if he's going to come back. Hamonic, we don't know if he's going to come back. Rafferty, this guy might not even come back either. He's an RFA as well. So the Canucks don't really have anybody on the right side that I think is worthy enough of being placed on top of a Seth Jones talent-wise. And for sure, you can say that definitely projects poorly on the team, and that the fact that you would need a Seth Jones to quote-unquote improve your roster is a bad thing. But I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about Seth Jones and what he would actually be on this team contract-wise and locker room-wise. Seth Jones does need a contract extension next season. You know who else needs a contract extension next season? Hey, some guy by the name of Brock Besser. You hear about that? You talk about Elias Pettersson, you talk about Quinn Hughes needing contracts this season. You have yourselves what is going to be a bigger saga next year if you have a Seth Jones on top of all this other stuff that they have. They're still going to have to get everything else sorted out, and I know Louis Eriksson's money comes off the books, but this team is already so strapped to the cap with the Pettersson and Hughes things coming in here as well, that you'd be honestly kind of risking it if you wanted to go out there and acquire a Jones and make it so that you can keep everybody else you have on your team long term. If you trade away Schmidt, okay, cool. If you end up leaving off Louis Eriksson and he doesn't re-sign, okay, cool. If you find a way to get rid of anybody else, then okay, cool as well. But that stuff is not guaranteed. Therefore, in a vacuum, I just don't really know how much of a fit there would be. Furthermore, it would take a lot to acquire Seth Jones, wouldn't it? The Blue Jackets' asking price for this guy is pretty high. If it's going to take the 9th overall pick and a few other things, I honestly start to get a little bit uncomfortable thinking about that kind of trade from the Vancouver point of view. Furthermore, Seth Jones is a guy who I just don't really know would fit in all too well with this environment. Mostly because we know Vancouver is, majority speaking at least, a very left place, and we know how Seth Jones has been very public in his position on the opposite side. I'm not going to say it's right or wrong or whatever. I'm just going to say it is what it is, and it is somewhat of a difference compared to the environment that Vancouver presents to its hockey media and players from a market and a fan perspective. So that in itself is something else to think about. I don't want to make it seem like it's the biggest thing as to why I wouldn't want Seth Jones over here. I just don't think he's good enough to justify the price, and I think the Canucks could go out there and get better, cheaper long-term options instead of Seth Jones. So as a result, I get it. The Canucks need right-handed defensemen, but you let Stetcher and Tanev go, right? Why didn't you just get them back? Either way, though, the other Vancouver Canucks guy that's apparently in this conversation too is Tyler Bertuzzi, Todd's nephew. I was about to say kid. No, it's not kid, it's nephew. Take a look at this. It's also on the same Pagnotta article over here. The Red Wings are open to Tyler Bertuzzi calls. As Pagnotta reported on Monday on NHL Now, the Detroit Red Wings are indeed willing to listen to offers for left-wing Tyler Bertuzzi. Detroit's rebuild is clearly a patient one, as they don't have any roster players signed beyond 2022-2023, and that will certainly change this offseason. Plus, Pagnotta suspects some prospects on entry-level contracts will indeed emerge, but GM Steve Yzerman is willing to wait things out. He has shifted the gears on Anthony Mantha and got a pretty sweet return for him. Is Yzerman hoping to do the same with Bertuzzi? Some teams to keep an eye out include the Flyers, the Kings, the Canucks, the Blues, the Maple Leafs, and the Bruins. The Vancouver Canucks say, and Tyler Bertuzzi, could you see this happening? I know I personally could. I don't know how you couldn't imagine a Bertuzzi suiting up for Vancouver, because obviously that would be the most foreign thing in the world. Yeah, I know, I'm joking, but either way, Tyler Bertuzzi is one of those guys who, when you take a look at what it is Jim Benning wants to acquire and what he feels is necessary to win hockey games, Tyler Bertuzzi kind of fits that mold. I mean, he's 26 years old, so he's already in that prime of his career kind of age. Sure, he is an RFA, he needs a contract right now, as would Petey and Hughes need as well, but he has indeed been a pretty good, solid point producer the past few seasons. He was slowed down this year heavy by injuries, but he still produced 7 points in 9 games played. We spoke about all this stuff in the Toronto video a few days ago, so you can go ahead and check out the scoop on Tyler Bertuzzi over there. But long story short, he still has some legit NHL potential to be a consistent 20-goal, maybe 50, 60-point guy even, if he sustains the pace of play that he was at this season, where he had 5 goals in 9 games in a season plagued with injuries. It just really depends on what the price is, And I said this in the Kyle Dubas video, but I'll say it again here for Vancouver. I kind of don't really want to do it, mostly because I'm scared of what Steve Yzerman would do to Jim Benning in a trade. Like, come on. You have Jim Benning on one side, the guy who's been getting robbed and losing trades and losing assets left, right, and center. Sure, he drafts well, but what else does he do? I say that he signs RFA deals really nicely, but aside from that, it's the players coming in, it's the players going out. It's those kinds of deals that really sting as a Canucks fan watching Jim Benning in his tenure. If he goes out there and tries to negotiate with Yzerman, dude, I'm gonna get really, really scared, because we know how much Steve Yzerman could, as I said in the previous video, scrunch up other teams' GMs and just wring them out for assets and more capital like a squeegee towel you're trying to squeeze the water out of. Yzerman is just that kind of guy, and he built the Tampa Bay Lightning for a reason. He is probably one of the better GMs in this NHL when it comes to making trades and doing successfully in them. So, Benning going out there with Yzerman, it depends on the price. If Yzerman goes out there and says, okay, we're going to go out there and we're going to trade Bertuzzi in the same way we traded Anthony Mantha, I have so much fear as to how many picks, how many roster players, how many assets the Canucks are going to give up for Tyler Bertuzzi, because Yzerman can make pitches for his guys, dude. He knows how to sell his guys and get assets back. And furthermore, the connection of the Bertuzzis and all that, it makes things a little bit easier to say, oh, this is why Jim Benning wants to go for Tyler Bertuzzi, not because he's good, but just because he's the nephew of Todd. Like, is it not kind of a bad sign that I'm kind of defaulting to thinking like this when I think about my own favorite hockey team? Is it a sign of negativity, or is it just a sign of fear? Because, I mean, you know what they say, right? Hockey fans are the harshest on their own hockey teams. They give props to everybody else in the league, and they're not afraid to talk about how everybody else in the league is good, but they really just give it their worst when coming to the teams they care about the most. And maybe that's what I'm feeling over here with Vancouver. Tyler Bertuzzi, well, I think he could be a really good addition. I just don't know what the price would be. I'm scared to find out. For Seth Jones, I don't know if he would fit on this team, just in terms of the money long term. His decline in play scares me. The price of what it would cost scares me. And I don't know if he would really fit well in this environment in liberal BC over here. So talk to me in the comments what you think about Seth Jones and Tyler Bertuzzi potentially going to the Canucks. I hope you enjoyed this video. Show us the 99. And bye.